You're getting to be known as the deviled egg lady.
I know. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
It is a little
deviled
crazy.
Eggs. I mean, deviled eggs of all the things. How in the world can discipleship be like deviled eggs?
You're listening to As You Go, a production of Free Will Baptist Women's Ministries. Wherever you're joining us from today, we're glad you're here. We want to grow together as disciples and as disciplers.
Hi, I'm Ruth McDonald, the director of Free Will Baptist Women's Ministries, and welcome today to our podcast. Today we have a first for As You Go, in the fact that this is not our first time to have this guest. Kristi Johnson today is our first time, second repeat guest.
Oh, there you go.
We loved her so much when she did a previous episode that we decided to have her back on the podcast.
And I loved coming to talk to you so much that I just wanted to come back and be a part of the podcast.
Well, we did an episode very early in the history of the podcast on the power of our words. And it was well received, and we really enjoyed talking with each other.
Yeah.
And we've done some ministry together since then. Been out on the road doing some tandem speaking to women. I recently heard Kristi do a talk that I thought would be a very beneficial topic for today's podcast. So that's why she's back. Kristi and her husband served for many years, over 20 years, in the country of Spain as church planters and international missionaries with IM Inc. And now her husband teaches at Welch College in the intercultural studies missions program. Kristi is working in communications with IM. So we were just saying, I always ask everyone what they wanted to be when they grew up. And I already asked Kristi because she's been on here before. And she said she wanted to be a cashier at Walmart. Do you remember that?
I do.
What a high, lofty goal.
I thought pushing all those buttons on the machine would be so much fun. Who knew?
So that's not what she turned out to be.
No.
But I was telling her that since she's the woman behind all the fundraising efforts for the WMO, the World Mission Offering, that she's kind of like a glorified cashier at Walmart.
Now I can count all the money that comes in. It's amazing. I love
you
it.
raised, not you single-handedly, of course, but you and your department raised, what was your total last year?
$792,000.
That's amazing.
Amazing. We have some great supporters.
Yeah, so
You guys are making me work hard to count that money. Thank you.
That's for our international missionaries around the world, and we're really proud of the work that Kristi does to support the cause of the Great Commission. She did it in Spain, and now she's doing it from Nashville.
I love it. I love it. It's amazing.
I asked you to come today to talk to us about the subject of discipleship. And you're getting to be known as the deviled egg lady.
I know. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
It is a little
deviled
crazy.
eggs. I mean, deviled eggs of all the things.
Can you tell the listeners today why you're getting known as the deviled egg
I'll
lady?
tell the long story. I hope you guys are in for this.
Okay.
Stay tuned because it's all coming. But the short, long story is I really started thinking about discipleship, and I started thinking about when Tim and I were in Spain and how I was really, really involved in discipling women. And then I began to think back, well, how was I discipled? How did I get to that point where I would be the one doing that? And I was thinking of my whole life, of all the women active for Christ in my home church that discipled me, and all of the people that I was able to witness discipling others. And one of them that comes to mind is Miss Amy Robinson. Miss Amy passed away this past year on March 1st. And I began to think about her and the impact that she had on my husband's life. They were missionaries, and they would visit his home. And when they would visit, my husband would literally lay under the kitchen table and listen to all the adults talking. That was the fun thing to do.
Hey, Kristi, my husband spent a summer with them when he was in high school.
Okay.
So he had an impact on both of our husbands.
Isn't that great? We have we have so much in common. That's great.
We do.
And I was thinking about her, and she passed away, and I was like, what a legacy she left in our hearts and in my husband's heart. And then we got to pass that on to lots of people in Spain. And I was just thinking through that and just remembering all of the stuff about discipleship. And I was thinking, what is discipleship really? All of the women that I've worked with in Spain, it's really just a journey that we all took together. We were walking together, fellowshipping, sharing our ups and downs, reading scripture. That's really what discipleship is. It doesn't have to be some big, expansive, crazy program. It's just the one-on-one, can be groups of 2 or 3 or a little more, but it's just that that close contact of getting to talk to someone and work with someone and teach them what it's like to be with Jesus and to walk with Jesus and to have Jesus in your life. And I started thinking about, I know this is crazy, she already mentioned it, deviled eggs. How in the world can discipleship be like deviled eggs? Because, have you ever made deviled eggs?
Oh,
You've
yeah.
made them, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
I've heard somebody say deviled eggs are like the most important plate at the meal, like grandma's house on Sunday. Like the roast is good, the potatoes are good, but everybody goes for the deviled eggs. And you like them or you love them. I know that.
It's not a holiday meal at our house without deviled eggs.
Exactly. I mean, my kids go crazy when I make deviled eggs. And I started thinking about, how you have to make these eggs and what goes into making the eggs. You have to buy them, which nowadays...
Yeah, pure gold these days.
Exactly. That's a priceless thing, buying the eggs. And then boil them and peel them. And you guys know what it's like when you peel the eggs. And
it's the worst
chip
sometimes.
by chip. Or I love it when it comes off in one fell swoop.
I know. And there are all the tricks to how you can do it, but they don't always work.
No, the ice bath.
The salt.
Yeah, I know. Vinegar in the water. I've heard them all. They don't all work.
How soon you peel them after they... but sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, and I can't figure it out.
I know. It's crazy. And I don't know that I have any magic answers either to the eggs or to the discipleship.
Okay.
There really aren't magic answers. It's investing the time, continuing to do it, and just moving forward in the process. And when I think about eggs, there are lots of ways to make them. There are lots of things. You mentioned the ways to get the shells off, but think about what you put in your eggs. I have been in a lot of potlucks in my life. I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
And the eggs
I know you have.
you have to.
Yes.
The eggs are always different, aren't they? I mean, what did your mom put? What did your mom put?
I don't know because my mom never actually let me in the kitchen very much. She was like, I can do it quicker myself. So I just kind of learned them on my own.
So what do you put in your eggs?
I put mayonnaise, a little bit of mustard, some usually sweet relish if I have it.
Ooh, I like them with relish, yes.
Salt and pepper, paprika on top.
Oh, you make them fancy.
But I'll tell you what, I made them even fancier this past year, Kristi.
Oh, what did you do?
I did something I want to recommend, which is, As You Go is not a cooking podcast.
Hey, we can start one.
But I went to a restaurant recently and they had deviled eggs with sugared bacon on top.
I've had those before.
And so I did it, and it was the easiest thing ever. I just bought the bacon, not bacon bits. But real bacon.
Real bacon.
Bits.
Oh, yeah, you got to have the real stuff.
And I put brown sugar on them and zapped them in the microwave for a little bit and put them on top of the
sweet
eggs.
with the salty. Ooh.
It was so good. And I made one plate of the regular ones with the paprika and one plate of the ones with the bacon. And I'll tell you which one was all gone
the bacon
first.
For sure. Bacon and eggs. Who doesn't love bacon and eggs?
So that's probably the way I'm going to be making them from now on.
Oh, now I want to go home and make eggs.
I know, right?
Now I want to do that. Ooh,
so that was just a little extra today on your discipleship
whether
podcast.
You put bacon or you put paprika like Ruth, if you're super bougie like Ruth.
I'm not bougie. I thought sugared bacon was a little
Whatever
bougie.
you put your sugared bacon. The thing is, all deviled eggs all over the world, they have one thing. They always have the egg. Yeah. Right? That's the thing. We can change them out.
Right.
But they have the egg. And that's what it is about discipleship. It has one thing. It's Jesus. It has the gospel at the center of it. So it can take many, many, many different forms.
Gotcha.
With the sugared bacon, but it's going to have the egg. So that's really the first thing that we should think about. And I was thinking, it's all about Jesus, all about the gospel. And I was thinking, sometimes we make the eggs and they're sometimes messy, right? Making them. They're delicious to eat. But making them, you've got the bowl that you're squishing up the egg yolks, and you've got to pull out the mayonnaise with the spoon. And when you finish, you've got a kitchen full of dishes. It's not necessarily easy. It can get messy. And discipleship is like that too. I was thinking specifically of a friend of mine in Spain that I worked through some discipleship time with, and there were some messy things in her life. I'm just going to say it was messy. And we just had to work through those things. And it wasn't always easy. I remember one particular day we had a really, really hard conversation where I had to confront and talk about some hard things. And our daughters were little and they were at the park. We were at the park. We were sitting on the park bench having this really heavy, messy, deviled egg conversation while the girls rode their bikes. And the Lord just said, you know what? This is messy, but you got to walk through this. And I was, that's where the gospel comes out. That's where we get to show Jesus' love to people. And so
life is messy.
It does. It gets really messy.
And the longer the Lord tarries, the messier it gets. Right, Kristi? Yeah.
And sometimes it can be time consuming. I mean, it's not like you just pop it in the microwave.
No.
Oh, guys, I have to tell you this. Did you know that you can buy deviled eggs already made up? Not already made up, but a bag of like an icing bag, a frosting bag of the yolk, the filling, and an egg already cut, peeled, everything at Costco.
Really?
Not an ad for Costco here, but I'm just saying. Aww. Never had that in my life before. Don't even know what it means for discipleship. I don't think there's a fast food way to discipleship. I think it just takes time. It takes those hours with people. It took me sitting on that bench with that lady, just the time passing. I was thinking about my ladies in Spain that would come to our house. They would come every week. I would have a Bible study with these 3 particular ladies, and they would come. And of course, you have to clean your house before everybody comes over, so that was a part of time. And then we always had a snack or something ready, and then they would stay for several hours, and it was a lot of time. It was a huge time investment. It's not always convenient. I had another ladies group that I was discipling that we met at 9:30 at night. It was the only time we could meet because everybody had little kids and we had to wait for husbands to get home and kids to get into bed and all those things. Well, I said it. We're ladies. I said it. At 9:30 at night we started, but we got there. We started at like 10, and by midnight we were wrapping it up. But that's
Europe, huh?
Yeah, that's Europe for you right there. But it was not always convenient. Maybe I didn't want to be out at 9:30 at night, but it was. When I think about it, those were some of the most special moments of my life. Those ladies, I love them dearly with my heart. And sometimes I think if I could just go back and have one more Bible study with them, I would go back and do it right now. It was time consuming, but it was so worth it. So
and not
worth
at
it.
a convenient time.
Yeah, not always convenient. And I was thinking about, there's so many different ways to do discipleship. It's not just a cookie cutter. You can't just go to Costco and buy the bag and have them like that. You could, but your homemade canned bacon ones are way better. Now you've got me like I really want those. I really want to try them. And I was thinking there's so many different ways. And even in Corinthians, we read about how to the Jews it was one way and to the Greeks it was another. It's the same. There's different ways to reach different people. And a part of the discipleship process is walking with people and finding what they need. Finding what is going to reach them, just like the eggs, and being intentional. It's not something that just happens easily. Right now my husband teaches at Welch, so we're around college students all the time, and I make it's intentional. We're opening our home to them, we're having coffee, bringing them over. It's just an intentional moment in our lives to get to speak into these college students' lives that are considering marriage, considering who they should date, considering what ministries they should be involved in. And I love these moments of getting to be intentional with these ladies, with the college students that we're around. So I was telling you, Ruth, about Miss Amy, who really had a huge impact on my husband's life especially. And earlier last year, in March of last year, she passed away in the morning of March 1st. Well, that afternoon, the same day, my mother passed away. And she was another person who taught me what is discipleship. And if I think of my mom's ministry, the first thing I think of is she was a discipler. She probably hadn't read all the books about it, but she did it. She was so good at I always use this phrase about my mom. She pursued people for the sake of the gospel, no matter what. She pursued people, and that was discipleship. She taught a Sunday school class. She was constantly pursuing those young people. It was amazing to think of that. When I think of my mom, that's what I think of, is the fact that she was discipling people. She had a friend, a lady who was older than her, but they would carpool a lot. She discipled that person. It's unbelievable the stories that I could tell there about that pursuing. But the funny thing is, so my home church is a church that they used to have this plan that they had, like the funeral plan and the maybe new baby plan. And if everybody picked a food that they would always make. So you knew that you were going to make rolls. Or
That's good.
Well, guess what my mom's was?
Deviled eggs.
My mom was the deviled egg maker.
Aww.
So I'm sure she always had, some eggs tucked in the fridge in case somebody were to pass away.
Right.
She would be ready to make the deviled eggs, which is kind of interesting that was actually what she was known for, making her deviled eggs and taking them, ministering to these people. Well, my mother passed away, as I said, in March, and we were at the funeral at my home church where she was attending. She was all of her life, and person after person after person came up to me and said, "Your mom discipled me. Your mom brought me back to the faith. Your mom did this." And I thought, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
She was fulfilling her role. And one particular person handed me a card, and I was going to read what it said. It was one of the men, and he's a man now, one of the young guys in her youth group, and he said, "Words cannot express how much your mom means to me. When I lost my way, she found me, gave me a hug, and invited me back to church." That's what it is. She pursued this person for the sake of the gospel. And it's amazing. It was amazing to hear that. And even at her funeral, you go to the cemetery and they do that part. And then we went back to the church. The church loved my mom well. They made this beautiful spread of food. It was decorated just to her. She loved red birds. They had a tree with red birds. I mean, they just really, really went all out. And I was sitting there at the table eating lunch, and I looked up and I saw one of the girls that had been in her youth group. And one of the girls that my mother had pursued for the sake of the gospel for years and years and years. And she was walking from the kitchen out to the serving table. So I knew she was helping with the meal. She was doing her part. And you want to guess what she was carrying?
I think I can guess.
Yes. She was holding this giant tray of deviled eggs. And I think that's when it hit me. My mom discipled this lady who would continue to disciple others, and that's where the deviled egg thing came from. That's
beautiful. I didn't know that, Kristi.
Yeah, so that's kind
awesome.
of how I became the deviled egg person.
What a legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, your mom, I'm assuming, discipled you in many ways as a woman of faith.
Yes.
She raised a daughter of faith. She pursued people for the sake of the gospel. You went all the way to Spain to pursue people for the sake of the gospel. You've raised a son who's going now to France to pursue people for the sake of the gospel. And that's the way discipleship works, right?
It's a cycle.
Also, she made deviled eggs for everybody. And now some of the people that she made them for are making them for other people.
It's amazing.
And that's just, that is cool. That is very, very beautiful. A beautiful picture of legacy and passing along.
But I think about our denomination, all of the efforts, what we used to call CTS, which is now Vertical 3.
Right.
It's discipling young people.
That's right.
Women Active for Christ, discipling women. When we did sword drill and all of those things back then, we were all being discipled. Our church camps. And I mean, there's so many ways that our young people are being discipled even now.
Eating.
We're making a lot of deviled eggs out there.
We are. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Discipleship and deviled eggs.
There you go.
Many, many parallels. Who would have ever known? So Kristi said she thinks it's a little unfortunate that she's getting to be known as the deviled egg lady, but I think it's wonderful. And I knew that you needed to hear this talk because it's easy to remember, and I hope it will spur you on to good works. And I remember reading just recently in the New Testament where it says that the first missionaries in the New Testament, they shared not only the gospel, but their very lives. And isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
That's discipleship.
That's discipleship.
So whatever it looks like, whatever ingredients you put in there.
As long as you have that egg.
You've got the egg.
Gospel.
Jesus, the gospel
Yes.
of Jesus. And passing along the faith to those around us. Thank you so much, Kristi. That's perfect.
Thanks for having me.
I love you and I love this story. And I pray that God will use it in the lives of our listeners and viewers to let them be encouraged to get involved in discipling the people around them. Thank you so much.
Thanks.